Now, really excited to talk about this game that we've been playing this week. It's a little bit different, although it is a card game. It is a digital card game called Dragonfront.
Yeah, usually we save this for a digital review but this is actually a beta
That's
that we
correct.
both got into, which is really awesome.
It is currently in closed beta. You can sign up. We'll be moving into open beta and then final release probably within the next couple months. But if you haven't heard of it, it is a virtual reality card game. You can play it on the Oculus Rift, and I believe it's also going to be coming to Gear VR, which is the Samsung phone version of Oculus, but exclusive to the Oculus platforms as of now. And it is basically, if you're familiar with games like Hearthstone, or it's very similar to that. You choose different factions. You're in this. You have different worlds that are for some reason colliding and meeting, and you're battling each other for supremacy. And
I think the big thing is interesting because
Yeah.
I like the way you described it to me. It was like if we had like the mystical, Dungeon Dragon stuff clash with World War II, and that is what a lot of it feels like in terms of the art design.
yeah, definitely.
You choose. The way it works is you choose a faction, and each faction has that look. Like your faction you chose is the Thorns, which are like the tree people. And like one of them in particular I remembered, because I remember looking like, oh my god. It's pretty much like, imagine if a tree folk started growing from inside a tank, and like then he has like the tank back on him, he has the cannon on his arm and stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. They take some pretty interesting. The art design is pretty nice. So why don't we start with just the gameplay, as if it
Right.
were just a card game. Then we'll talk about the virtual reality aspect
So
of it.
the game is in essence a card game, but it also plays in terms of the actual mechanics on the field, it plays less like, I would say, Magic, more like Yu-Gi-Oh!, in which the rows actually matter a bit more.
You're actually basically there's
4 lanes.
4 by 4, right?
Yeah.
A field, and you can actually move your guys around. However, you have one row as your spawn row. Only you can move things there. That's where you spawn things.
In that sense, it plays more like a tower defense. You're not moving around like a chessboard.
Right.
It's more like there are 4 lanes, each 4 spaces.
Tower defense is a good analogy for that. Yeah.
And the closest lane is your spawn lane. This is, with a few exceptions, the only place where creatures can come out.
Right.
Then there's sort of the middle ground, which is the battlefield. Once you reach the third lane, instead of moving into the row, you attack your enemy's base, and if their base hits 0, they lose, you win. Yeah. Now, to combat this, of course, you'll play your own creatures to fight them, and they'll slowly move forward, and they'll attack instead if they're adjacent. Or you can also play fort cards, which are pretty much, they'll take a space in the battlefield and they'll give you advantages. Like
It could be a trap.
some of them give you more strength in the lane. Some of them will be like, if your guy dies here, draw a card, things like that.
But basically, you're generating mana, you're summoning creatures, it's your spells, instants, that kind of thing.
And a big thing is that each player also has a champion.
Right.
Now these champions are off to the side. They're big guys. They're your big drops. If you take damage, it actually lowers their costs. I think as of now, the starters, I know at least ours, since we played 4 times against each other, are about 15 or 16 to starting.
I believe they all are, as far as
Yeah.
I've seen. Yeah.
And you can bank mana into them each turn. So you don't have to play that mana all at once. So you can slowly build them up. Or if you take damage, that's the other thing. Like, if you damage your opponent, you're actually making their leader cheaper. So it's a very
And every
risky
time
balance.
an enemy of yours gets killed, they also get mana as a kind of a consolation prize for
Right.
that. So there almost might be sometimes you don't want to kill them because you don't want to give them that mana. Or when you might be like, oh, he killed that guy, I can play something stronger this turn. Yeah. And I think unless I'm remembering wrong, Hearthstone, the mana carries over from turn to turn. So you can save it.
Yes, unlike other ones. You can carry over. Now, we've mentioned factions multiple times, but we haven't actually gone through them. So, as of now, there are 4 available. There are, I believe, 3 others that say coming soon.
Yeah.
The 4 in question are, there's the Scales. This is the group I actually started with. As you say, the boring ones.
You would think they might be something different called the Scales.
Yeah, honestly, that's why I get confused. I always have to think what they're called. These are like your dwarves and humans. They're like they almost look like the Alliance from World of Warcraft. They blue on silver armor. They're more mech. They have cannons and ships, and they're
knights.
Yeah, they have
Paladin.
Imagine like the old rifles. I'd say not even World War II, more World War I rifles, but with big guns on them, like more wooden rifle kind of deal. The way they play is usually they're more like offensive and defense at the same time. Like my guy would drop walls to hold back guys while I try to like send these smaller guys to attack and then buff them up.
They're like the Mario of they're the all around like good, pretty balanced kind of class and everything, I think. Then mine was the Thorns, and as we said, it is the tree people, and they're much more about the slow burn. You have a lot of things that build over time.
I guess slow burn is right, but because I see burn as damage.
I meant that only as a metaphor.
Yeah, I realize. So they're the slow build up.
Yes, they're more defensive. Like, you're more about the late game. Early on, you're just kind of prepping, and then you kind of are supposed to storm.
Yeah, you have a lot of cards that are like this guy gains a power each turn, or this guy gains a mana for you each turn, so on and so forth.
Yeah, lots of resource generation.
So the longer the game goes, the deadlier you are.
Then there's Eclipse and what's the other one? Strife.
Now, the Eclipse, these are your zombies, and really their two big things is they're going to spawn a whole bunch of like 1/1s undeads. They're going to fill their board. And they have a lot of things, like you mentioned earlier, that when something dies, you get mana for it. They stop that. So pretty much the Eclipse style, from what I can tell, is they're meant to just sort of overrun your opponent and deny them anything in return. Which is interesting, the way they... at least a little bit I got in the demo. You get to actually demo each of them, we forgot to mention, before you choose a faction. And we'll get more into that later.
Yeah.
Finally, there's Strife.
Strife are like the Hellfire weird...
They're like demons, goblins, and dragons, I guess.
Yeah.
They're pretty much... They don't care about their own life. Right. They're going to just charge in as quick as they can. Almost like they're the opposite of the Thorn.
Yeah.
They go as fast as they can, and they take everything down with them.
Hyper aggressive. They're your brother's class.
Oh yes.
of the game. So yeah, we dabbled with those, but really we did Thorns and Scales.
Because like you said, there's a
it is a free to play game.
Not trial.
Tutorial
thank
mode
you. Where you play with each one. Then you choose one. Once you choose one, you get the starter deck for them. The other factions, whether you open packs more for the cards or not, are locked. You have to buy the other factions in order to play with them. And we did try to see, because I literally did not open a single card for my faction. I got a lot for Strife, and I couldn't make any. But then I realized I don't have a commander for them. Maybe, because you actually opened a commander.
You gotta pay for it if you want to build any decks with them.
There are mercenary cards we should mention. These are factionless, so you can put them in any deck, which is very helpful, considering, like I said, I have gotten no new cards for the Scales, but I've gotten other faction ones, such as the Terra Whale, which I love, because it's a whale that sits out of the ground, and when it moves, it's like...
Some of those mercenaries, I think, are great. Some of the best cards I saw. So, as a Magic player, and we both played Hearthstone, but so what did you think about actually the game? Like, how did you enjoy it?
Definitely, it's one of those things that a lot of it was fun just to see the models and the voices that I know. Definitely really cool. And it was interesting because Magic, one of the things is the graveyard is just as important. Like you're thinking about that. There isn't one.
Right.
Like, that's gone.
And it's only a 30-card deck also.
Yeah. Which actually made a very big difference. And this is where I think cards can become really powerful. We mentioned the two decks and how yours is all about building up. My starter deck comes with 4 cards, 2 which are deal 3 damage to one opponent, and the other one is deal 3 damage to entire lane, to each thing in a lane. And with 30 cards, in essence 4 copies in there, I was guaranteed to get those cards. I was pretty much able to wipe anything that you started building up.
Oh yeah,
really well.
Yeah, my poor moles, my little moles that you need to have out for like 5 turns to be good.
Like even your best guy, I think, has a toughness of 6. So with one of those spells, I can make him able to be killed by almost any of my guys.
Because basically, what I have to do is, like, my champion buffs their health, and different spells and stuff buff their health. So I'm trying to really, like you said, slow burn.
We forgot to mention that in this game, this plays, I can't think of it. There's another kind of game that's like it. It's not like where in Magic, once a turn's done, their health comes back. their health's permanent loss. So a one, so
Dice
you
Masters,
can't.
I think does that also.
I think maybe, but
I don't remember. It's been so long.
Versus
Versus
with
okay.
wounds.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like that. So you can't. So something like in Magic, like for example, a 1/5 can really wall for a long time. In this, not really. It will get beaten down eventually.
Is the same way. Yeah. So
That's the other one I was thinking of.
So yeah, you can't. It does require a little more strategy. I thought for me the movement aspect of it was by far the most interesting thing. That's what really made it feel. Even though you said it's not like chess, I felt
I meant chess in the terms of movement.
Yeah, right. No,
that's why I
understand.
said tower defense. More like you have your row.
But in terms of the way that I was thinking, it felt a lot like chess. Like I felt like the strategies were very like, what do I need to put here? Should I save it for over there?
Well, the one in particular card that I definitely agree feels more like chess actually was from the Strife set. There was a guy who every time he moved, once he moved, he dealt damage to everything in an adjacent row. Row and column. So like forward and backward, left and right. And that would be I think would have a lot more interesting movement strategies for both sides. So like, I can put this, but he's going to move and deal 1 damage there. And
yeah, and there's a lot of things that are like, oh, this guy's better if he stays put, he doesn't move.
Definitely your guy has a lot more of it, which I think helps. Like, what I consider, I'm very jealous of, because I got to use in the trial, one of the best cards is a bear. Every time he moves, you draw a card. And I don't know if you have in your starter deck, but I remember the trials, there was one, every time you activate this one, you gain a mana.
I do have one.
You do have those?
Mm-hmm.
Like, those make things much more interesting about clearing your lane and having him move forward and stuff.
Right, and they also kind of make you want to, like, oh, I don't just want to turtle or something like that. I have to keep these guys moving maybe, or the opposite depending on what the abilities are. So it seems like, I mean, we've just scratched the surface of how many cards there are.
We played 4 matches.
I lost all of them.
And what was interesting is right afterwards, you found a Reddit post talking about how someone thought the Thorn were overpowered.
Right. And then all these other people were like, I'll just lose.
Yeah, you actually posted. But then one other person brought up, and one card in particular, which is very interesting. And this actually brings to, I think is going to start on where I have some problems with this. Okay. Or at least at this current moment. Remember, this is a beta, so it's not like...
Lots of things could change before this is released.
And of course, card updates. Because you can actually do this since it's digital. He has a card in which is just like deal damage to kill a creature, then you take that much damage. We both agree we would throw that card in our deck in a heartbeat.
Right.
Because even like your biggest guy, I would take 6 power to kill him so he couldn't grow anymore. Yeah, that's a worthwhile hit.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, it is like every CCG. Right. You're gonna want those better cards. You're gonna want those packs.
In particular, we should mention that that's a Thorn exclusive card.
Right.
Supposedly, at least from the guy's description. And you already you brought up, I didn't think about it, you have a card that's I give all my guys, I gain a health, regenerate. Yeah. So like you could maybe get hit for 6, then heal 4.
Yeah, so there's some really strong combos that are possible with that.
But that brings up the problem I have right now, is right now there's one form of packs. There's just the packs. Just like any free-to-play game, by doing matches, you earn a certain amount of gold and enough to buy a pack. And I think leveling up...
It also has quests you can do, just like Hearthstone, missions each day.
But right now, the packs seem to mostly come from that. I think we leveled up the first time we got a pack, other than that hasn't. The packs are rarely random. I haven't gotten a single thing good for me. I've gotten good things for you, and I think you even got a new scale. We joked about like, so you want to trade?
Yeah.
And there is a mechanic called scrapping, which you can, I think, destroy the card to get scrap points to buy new cards or packs. The thing is, though, you don't want to scrap them because you want to actually have, like in Magic the Gathering, I don't have my 1EDH deck. I have my red-white one, but then I have a blue-black one, and then I have a green one.
Yeah.
And that brings up another thing you had an issue with comparing to Hearthstone. Considering
well, the classes themselves? Yeah, well, in Hearthstone you have 9 classes. And
right off the bat for free.
Yeah, and you just get to experiment with them. And I really do think that is my biggest disappointment, is it just feels very limiting. And
like we kept matching each other and it's sort of the same. I would understand, the one thing I would maybe feel a little better about is if you could make the other decks as long as you had the cards from. Like, for example, you could now make a scale deck because you have a scale commander. Granted, it might not be very good right now, the cards you have.
Yeah, and I mean, I was tempted to just buy the other 3 because that really I think would just open up the game, especially like you said with those booster packs. Right now, the odds are I'm not going to get any cards from my factions, so
like I would either do that. Another suggestion I would like is that different kinds of booster packs.
Okay. Oh, like for each faction specific.
Like you could maybe be like, this will guarantee you a Strife one or a Scale. Something like that, I think, would definitely be an interesting.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I think another one thing I would like is I think the leveling up should give you a pack each time, just like in Overwatch. Granted, you pay $60 right off the bat, I know, but like that still is you get a guaranteed box that comes with it. And I know this is a free to play, so that makes maybe a bit but that would make sense to the factions. But you could still give a pack each turn, at the very least. Like when you level up, you're like, well, maybe I'll play one more game to level up so I can get that pack, and maybe this time I'll get a new Scale guy or something.
I do know that one of the things I've seen them commenting on a lot is listening to people's feedback about the level up and the grind and how long it takes to gain experience. So I think they are actively tweaking that.
Yeah, and like I said, this is a beta, so you have to take a lot of what we say with a grain of salt. We should actually mention that thread that you found, we started commenting on. The developers commented on it and put a bunch of links to where you can talk more with them directly. They want to hear your feedback.
They're definitely taking notes.
Yeah, I definitely think mechanically this game was a lot of fun. It's definitely interesting. There is some challenging. The movement is definitely really cool. You could definitely do a lot of interesting things. Maybe there's something that actually moves diagonally or something. Like you could come up with some weird stuff. I think,
for all we know, there is one. We just haven't seen it yet.
And of course, the Oculus stuff, it's really fun, especially because your opponent we forgot to mention this, has a mask floating above their fort. And if you have your Oculus on here, and I go to look down at my champion, you'll actually see the mask go and look down, so.
Yeah, well, first I just want to say, having lost 4 times in a row, after each time, I still wanted to play again. I really liked it a lot. I thought it was, I think it has that same addicting quality that Hearthstone has.
Well, yeah.
For me.
And not only that, the factions themselves, and this is what sort of connects with your grief about the factions not getting them. Like, we've mentioned one thing that a good game has is even when you play your group or faction, you want to play them again. Just like in the one we always bring up is Cthulhu Wars, how we want to learn to master them and try different.
And especially because a lot of times I was getting gold, and I got a pack, and I got this new card, and let me try this combination, and maybe with this card in my deck, I'll do better this way, and so on. Yeah.
And that captures that really well with these groups, and I think they hit that on them, especially in particular. Like I said, I only have my one commander champion. You got the other one. You read his ability. I'm like, oh, well, if I had that, then this combo would work well by doing that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, it has that sense of strategy tweaking to it. And and the VR stuff is pretty cool. Now, I'm curious what you think about this, because one of the common complaints I've read about it is directly based on the fact that it's in VR, which is that a lot of people who love Hearthstone, one of the things that they love about it is that it's a very quick, on-the-go, casual style game that in between turns, they could be checking Facebook, they can be looking at their phone, they could be eating a sandwich, whatever. In this game, you're locked in. It's virtual reality. You're in a headset. There's nowhere to go and nothing to do when it's not your turn. Is that something that would concern you, or do you think people should think about? Like maybe this is... a lot of people have talked about if there could be like an overlay where you could like check your email or something.
Well, I know this is really hard, but this game has that ability. It's really amazing. What you do, headset, and your phone.
That's
done.
True. But then what if you miss your turn? There's no like...
Well, you still have the hearing, and you're going to hear that.
True.
I just feel...
But you also have like it's a little
and
awkward.
it's still on the screen in front of you.
Yeah, but it'll be turned
I guess
up.
to me, I've done that before, and it's not a problem.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, I do think there's merit to it. I do think there's...
I mean, there was probably some, but to me, I just feel like because of there's a way around it that's so simple, it's not something that...
But I don't think that's a great way around it. I don't know.
I guess to me, it's not that... Like, there's other things I would rather see fixed first.
I definitely think if you want that, like if you want a game that you can just play on the go, this isn't it. And I do think for some people who want a quick style card game, this isn't going to be a good fit for them in VR.
I think it's a good quick step for VR, but like you're already deciding to put on that headset. I think that headset is already saying dedication.
True.
Like Hearthstone can be played on an iPad. It's almost designed to play on devices that are known to be on the go.
Right.
This is if you're playing an Oculus, you're playing on devices not designed to be on the go.
Well, I think the argument is that maybe this game
could be with
just doesn't make as much sense as a VR, or should have an option, a 2D mode. And if you feel like it, you could play
now
it. Now
that I think is a fair argument, because I can sort of see. But I do like the 3D. And one of the things, I mean, I don't really think they need to do this. This is more my own little thing. I wish, like, when you look at examine the cards, you can rotate the 3D model around.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just, I really do love some of these designs.
I would like to see them even take it a little further with being able to look, like, really close, and like you said, spinning them around. I was saying, like, Hearthstone, where when it's not your turn, you can do stuff with the environment.
Which is funny, because the main menu, in essence, that weird Destroy Tower, has that.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, it definitely seems like a no-brainer. But overall, like, especially since it's free to play, and if you have a VR headset, you probably don't have. There's not that much content right now. Once this is released, I 100% say people should try it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely curious to the 3 factions. One other thing, this is more of because they're, I'm assuming they've played this game. God, how many hours and years?
Right.
But like one of the things I would like to see if they could try out somehow, because as far as I know, all the living card games do this. Magic's built on it, so they don't even have to think about it. Even Game of Thrones has it a bit. Like you could be, I'm leading, the scales, but I can maybe throw in 5 my faction cards in or something.
Right, a mixed faction deck.
Just that little bit of spice that can really make it so not every scales deck is the same, or every thorn. Because I can imagine, like, I can think there's some cards in my deck that you would have loved to probably just splash in.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be very interesting, and that's that kind of thing that I hope they listen to.
Or even if they had some weird hybrid champions, like maybe the champion defines it. That might be an interesting. So, like, I could go for this champion, but I can only use scale cards. This one, maybe the ability's different, but I have options now for the, from the thorns, which would make a big difference or something. So that I definitely think there's a lot of room for this card game to grow, which is very good.
I'm very curious really now just to see, 3 months from now, will I be coming back to it, either of us? And I think, well, the fact that both of us are playing and we have another friend with the VR headset adds a lot to that. But Hearthstone I loved too, and I fell off of that. So I don't know. I'll see if it still grabs me.
To be fair, I know one of the reasons with Hearthstone fell off is because both Neil and I know I fell off almost instantly. And I think
just because people I don't know are playing it, you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same.
Like with any collectible card game, it always helps to have friends.
Yeah.